today.
We welcome now Ira Mehlman, Media Director with the Federation for American Immigration Reform. Hey, Ira, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Good morning.
Thanks for joining us. So the Biden administration, it just seems like it's got the executive order pen pretty busy, especially vis-a-vis various immigration regulations. What's the latest here? I'm seeing something about some path for lots of folks that are here illegally to become citizens in short order.
Yes, what the administration did yesterday was basically an executive amnesty that could cover as many as 500,000 illegal aliens. That's what they're saying initially, but it's probably going to be an even greater number. The president is using a completely contrived power called parole in place to allow illegal aliens who are already in the country to get on a track to citizenship here in the United States. This is actually very, very different from DACA, which President Obama did in 2012, just before he ran for re-election. That simply deferred removal of illegal aliens who had come to the United States as children. They were still illegal aliens. They were not on a pathway to citizenship or a green card. Under what President Biden did yesterday, they will be on a pathway to getting a green card and eventual citizenship. So this is actual amnesty that the president is trying to implement here without any authorization from Congress, even though the Constitution gives Congress the power over immigration policy, not the executive branch.
So do you expect some sort of legal challenge to this action? It seems like that every day we have a president that oversteps their power boundaries, and then that results in a lawsuit that sues the administration, and it ends up in court, and we have to get the Supreme Court to say, no, you can't do that, President. Are we headed there on this as well?
It seems that we are headed towards dictatorship in 4-year increments in this country. But the problem is that you have to get legal standing in order to be able to bring a lawsuit. You have to demonstrate that you are uniquely harmed by whatever action has been taken by the administration. And, it's ironic that illegal aliens often have greater standing in our courts to challenge immigration laws and immigration policies than the people of the United States whom those laws are meant to protect. So it's questionable whether a lawsuit can even move forward, because the courts have shown that they're not willing to grant standing, even to states sometimes. There have been lawsuits brought by states who are saying we are being impacted, that our state dollars are having to go to provide basic services to illegal aliens, and it's harming us. And even in those cases, very often the courts say, no, you don't have standing. So the American public should have some recourse here, but it's questionable whether it's going to come through the judicial system.
Well, what are the options, though, Ira, if it doesn't go through the judicial system, so that the Supreme Court enforces the law, essentially, and orders the administration to stand down and reverse that policy? What are the other options?
Well, the other options are for Congress to step in and make it clear that he can't do it. I mean, that's theoretically possible, but given the divisions in Congress today, it's unlikely that it would ever get there, and it's unlikely that the president would sign a bill that limits his powers.
Right.
The other option, of course, is that we have elections. That's what elections are for. If you're not happy with the way things are running, then you have your say. It's coming up in about 5 months from now.
Man. It just feels like this is a never-ending cycle, and every time the president issues an executive order that seems, at least on the surface, to overstep his power, and it doesn't get challenged, and it's just done without any consequences, they just do it again. They find some other issue to issue an EO on.
This is a sort of a limited group of people who would be getting amnesty under this order that the president put out yesterday. But, this could be the cat's paw, that if they can get away with it for one group of illegal aliens, what's to say that, sometime down the road, they're just simply going to say, hey, we can do this for every illegal alien in the United States. The whole concept of presidential power of parole is being so abused by this administration. They have paroled 1.8 million people into the country since they came to office. Parole is supposed to be used on a case by case basis based on certain well defined circumstances that would say, even though the person is technically not eligible to come to the United States, we're going to allow them in anyway. And it's been used throughout history very, very sparingly. Under this administration, they are now allowing more people into the country under parole than we grant green cards to every year. So they've essentially
Wow.
created a separate immigration system. And then on top of that, there is no such thing as parole in place. That was bootstrapped by the Clinton administration back in 1998. They said, well, if we can parole people into the country, then we can take people who are already here and grant them parole in place, even though there is no legal basis for that. So it's just one abuse heaped on top of another abuse. And, essentially, as I said, we are heading towards a system where you just get a president who comes in and says, I'm going to do whatever I want for 4 years.
Seems like that's where we are. I mean, the president, through executive orders and the web of agencies, have a more profound impact on our lives than do the people we send to Congress. They don't do anything that you could point to that said, yeah, that truly did affect me, but at least in the last 3 years, substantially. But the orders that come out of this White House, I mean, the student loan is the other one. I know that's a different arena, but it's a similar example where we're just going to try this little sort of working on the edges here to get a certain number of people, certain group of people that meet qualifications, their debt canceled, and then we'll work on the rest of them. I feel like that's what's happening here with immigration. Let's target this little specific group here and come up with something, grant them amnesty, and that's just kind of a precursor to what's to come.
Yeah, it's incrementalism. You start with one group. If you get away with it, then you can expand it. And you have now set a precedent that, somebody can come along later and say, well, you did it for that group of people. There's no reason why you can't do it for the next group of people. But that's not the way that our founding fathers designed our system. We're supposed to have checks and balances. The Constitution delegates certain responsibilities to different branches of government. It has worked well now for almost 250 years. We should stick with it rather than going down the path we're headed now.
What about the situation in Seattle? We had this big movement starting in 2020 to defund the police. Some 725 police officers have left the force in the city of Seattle. That's a substantial number. And now they're trying to replace this exodus with illegals. They're literally putting badges on illegals, people who aren't American citizens, to serve as police officers.
Right. I should point out I'm actually talking to you from Seattle. I mean, there has been this attrition within the Seattle Police Department because the job has become so onerous that cops are just saying, I don't have to stick around here. There are many other jobs available to cops in surrounding areas, and so Seattle is having a very hard time filling those slots for many reasons. But the idea that we are going to take illegal aliens and put them, people who are here in violation of our law, and assign them the responsibility of enforcing laws against citizens, should be anathema to most Americans. We have always sort of said that police officers have to be law-abiding people themselves. That we cannot ask people who are breaking laws to enforce laws against other people, but that seems to be where we're headed. And by the way, as I pointed out before, DACA, people who are here on DACA are still illegal aliens. They're not on a pathway to citizenship like the people the president wants to grant parole to now, but they are nonetheless illegal aliens with no current path towards citizenship. And you have cities like Seattle that, bend over backwards to accommodate illegal immigration, saying, hey, let's make them police officers.
That's just incredible. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ira, but did not President Trump offer a deal with the Democrats to grant some degree of citizenship to DACA, people here under the DACA program, in exchange for funding the wall? Wasn't that a deal he actually offered?
I'm not sure it was ever a formal deal. That was a while ago. But nevertheless, these things should not be connected. The
I
American
agree.
public, it's the American public's immigration policy. It is our borders. The responsibility of this administration, any administration, is to serve the interests of the American people and to protect the security of the country. If we need a wall, then that should be done because it's on its own merit. There
I
should not
agree.
be trade-offs with people who violate our laws in order to get our government just to carry out its most basic responsibilities to the
I
American
agree.
public.
Well, we got to go, but appreciate you coming on and informing us about this issue. We'll be tracking it. Thanks a lot, Ira.
Pleasure. Thanks.
We're coming right back, folks, in the Element Wealth studio.